Hello, everybody. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. And once again, we're honored to have with us a man of men, someone who knows the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, put him up against anybody in the nation, Judge Andrew Napolitano. And week after week, unfortunately, he keeps telling us about how we've lost our rights to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And an article that's coming out tomorrow is "A Constitution the Government Evades." Hello there, Judge.
Yeah, hi, Gerald. How are you? It does seem like I'm shoveling against the tide, but these things just keep coming and coming. I mean, what I'm talking about here is Section 702 of the Spies Act, which is Bush era, but it expires every 5 years, and it expires this year on December 31st. And Congress cannot renew it. It permits FBI and NSA and all law enforcement and so-called intelligence apparatus to spy on communications by foreigners physically in the U.S., foreigners digitally in the U.S. You call a cousin in Florence about visiting the cousin, or you call a bookstore in London because you've communicated with a foreign person. The FBI has that conversation without a search warrant, without suspicion. And they can then surveil what you say because you spoke to this foreign person. This was Bush Cheney right after 9/11. This was going to keep us safe from foreign influence. We'll suspend the Fourth Amendment requirement of a search warrant for foreign persons. Foreign is an immutable characteristic of birth. So if you're born in London, come to the United States, become an American citizen, they can still, because you were born foreign, they can still surveil you. This shows you the government evades the Constitution. There's no respect for it whatsoever. This thing is up for reenactment by the Congress in the next 2 months. The reason I wrote the column is because last week, no surprise, Joe Biden asked the Congress to reenact this, even though he and everybody else there has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution. I'll tell you a funny story. 5 years ago, this was up for reenactment because it expires every 5 years. Donald Trump was in the White House. I got in front of the cameras on Fox and Friends, 6:30 in the morning. I said, Mr. President, the Congress just reenacted this statute. Veto it. This is the same mentality that spied on you when you were in Trump Tower, and it's probably spying on you now. This was 2017. We didn't, or 2018, we didn't even know how prevalent the deep state was spying on him. He tweets, the judge is right. Excuse me, your cough's contagious. The judge is right. I'm going to veto this thing. Well, all hell breaks loose. Mike Pence, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan rush to the Oval Office and say, according to somebody who was there, you can't sign this thing. What about the judge? The judge thinks the Constitution means what it says.
Yeah.
So Trump sent a message to me through this person that was in the Oval Office. They twisted my arm. I'm going to sign it, but I think you're right. That's right where we are now. And I'm railing against it because I'm going to guess the American public doesn't know this.
Oh, of course they don't. I didn't know it, you know. And
the whole idea that Congress can poke a hole in, cut an exception out of the Constitution is antithetical to a Constitution as the fundamental law of the land. The Constitution created the Congress. Congress didn't create the Constitution.
Not anymore. Who did you say went up to Trump? Pence, Ryan, and who else?
McConnell, when he was able to walk.
McConnell.
Sorry.
Think about it. Could you imagine swallowing the crap coming out of those shitiots' mouths? That's the cover of your Trends Journal this week. I don't know if you saw it yet.
I saw it. I wasn't going to mention it, but I saw it.
Yeah. That's it. A fully shit idiot, politicians, bureaucrats, mainstream media, and celebrities. So here, Trump swallows the crap coming out of the mouths of these arrogant nothing of little boys. Pence, out of his mind, McConnell, sucking off the public tit his whole life. Ryan, an arrogant little nothing of a clown. And these are the people telling us what to do.
And they prevailed on him. And in fairness to him, he had decency to sort of almost apologize to me, because he made a big deal out of this. And I actually got in trouble at Fox saying, you shouldn't be telling the president what to do on air. So
Why
I said
not?
to my bosses, what do you mean I shouldn't be telling the president what to do? That's what you pay me for, to explain the Constitution to people. If the president happens to be in the audience, that's even better. And then they backed down.
Yeah, God forbid you should say anything to a president or a politician. You're not allowed to. You write this article and you begin it by saying 6 months ago, FBI officials boasted that in 2022, their agents had spied on only 120,000 Americans without search warrants. Under the Constitution, that number should be 0. What did they accomplish at a spying on 120,000 people?
That is a great question, and it's an easy answer. Nothing, because the courts won't even allow that information to come into. Suppose they spied on somebody and he admits to a bank robbery. They can't use it because they obtained it illegally. They gain nothing by spying. It's just an easy shortcut for them. They don't have to go to a judge. They don't have to have probable cause. They don't have to wait for a search warrant. They don't have to execute the search warrant. They don't have to follow the rules. They can just press a few buttons on their computer and listen to the conversation. Can you imagine Madison or Jefferson contemplating that when the Bill of Rights was enacted?
Well, that's what you note here. You said the reason for the search warrant requirement is to prevent a repeat of what the British agents did to the American colonists before the Revolutionary War. Then secret British courts in London issued general warrants to British agents in America, which authorized the bearer to search wherever he wished and seized whatever he found. And you go on to say, to the colonial mindset, freedom had one universal meaning. It meant freedom from the government, from king and parliament. And how about from president and Congress?
How about we enacted a government well-intended, but destroys far more freedom than king and parliament did. The highest tax rate imposed on Americans, there wasn't an income tax, so it's difficult to calculate, but the people that have done this, economic historians, 3%, and that was enough to bring about a bloody revolution. Today, it's 59 or 60%, and we accept it.
Yeah. No, this is disgusting what's happened to this country. And you say, what about freedom from the new government here? And it's the first task of the new Congress was to comply with the promise and craft a Bill of Rights. We have no Bill of Rights anymore.
It's now a Bill of Privileges that the government, like a water spigot that the government turns on and turns off. We share the same view of George W. Bush, I think, as the worst president in the post-World War II era, certainly in that category. This was his creation. Let's let our people spy on foreigners without search warrants openly in the statute. We'll let them spy on us, but we won't tell anybody until, of course, the Snowden revelations and all that. So it's a terrible, terrible state of affairs. I'm going to guess that the American public will not be animated by the type of argument you and I are having now, and Congress will enact this deplorable statute for another 5 years, and the FBI and the intelligence agencies will continue to spy on foreign persons and on Americans that communicate with them, and life will continue to go on while we're under a microscope.
Well, again, you can't blame little Georgie Bush, because the little slime balls in Congress keep reenacting all of what he's done to us.
Right.
One thing after another, the so-called Patriot Act. I mean, come on. I mean, you got to blame Congress for this as well, because they're the same low-level mentality and egotistical freaks that little Georgie Bush is.
Correct. And Congress gives so much power to the president. When Barack Obama used the CIA to kill Colonel Gaddafi and destroy Libya, Congress looked the other way. Let the president just take war-making power from them. Every post-World War II president has done the same thing. You either wittingly or unwittingly use the CIA as a private secret military, and Congress not only didn't stop it, it continues to fund it. Congress is really, well, they're both the culprits, but Congress is so tepid and so weak, it just lets presidents take power away from them. And now we have a president who can't put two sentences together.
Or walk in a straight line.
Right.
You know, the going back to Libya, you forgot also, brought to you by Hillary Clinton, Samantha Power, and Susan Rice.
Right.
I'm always sick and tired of hearing that baloney line. If only women were in charge. Look at the little women war hawks you got running around the world right now. What's that woman over there that's the head of the NATO, van der Leyen?
Right.
Yeah, Babak over in Germany. More war, all the war whores, one after another. Race, creed, color, good and bad comes in all of them. You know, so I'm tired of this. And going back to Libya, what no one's talking about is what I've been talking about since that terrible dam burst and over 11,000 people were killed and that beautiful area destroyed. The whole country went to crap after the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, Barack Obama, got rid of Gaddafi. Libya was it was the richest country in Africa. The people had more rights and benefits than most people around the world. It was a big tourist destination. And now it's a hellhole, completely destroyed. But nobody mentions that.
Right. Mrs.
You know, Judge,
Mrs. Clinton last week was at the State Department at the unveiling of her official portrait as the 85th Secretary of State of the United States. And I was reminded she is directly in a line that started with Thomas Jefferson. Oh, how different. And if you watch the speech she gave, it's a campaign speech. The campaign speech for president in 2024. She's just waiting for old Joe to not wake up some morning.
Again, this is the Hillary Clinton that also is, you could see her on the video when the woman asked her in an interview, I think it was on CBS News, how'd you feel when you found out that Muammar Gaddafi was killed? We came, we saw, he died.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Remember Madeleine Albright? How did you feel about 500,000 children killed in Iraq or Afghanistan? The price you pay for democracy. Oh.
Yep. That was Leslie Stahl on CBS 60 Minutes. She asked, it was Bill Clinton. Every time he got caught with his pants down, it was bombs away over Baghdad, and he put terrible sanctions on them. And Leslie Stahl asked Madeleine Albright, was the price of 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5 worth the sanctions and what Bill Clinton's done to Iraq? And she said, yes, it is. These are the people that are running our country.
Yeah. This
right
is
in
the
front of your eyes. You know, Judge, what happened over there with this Charlie McCarthy. Remember Charlie McCarthy?
Yeah.
The puppet?
Right.
There he is. Remember that?
Yes. Ooh, boy, is Dylan fast. Wow. To have that at his fingertips.
Yep. Well, they got rid of Charlie McCarthy over there, the guy that was playing the Republican majority leader over there in the House. What's your take on it?
Oh, I support the rebels 110%. Kevin McCarthy succeeded in putting a Republican aura of respectability on Mrs. Pelosi level spending. He had no interest whatsoever in constitutional government or in fiscal sanity. And I was ecstatic that he was kicked out. I don't know who's going to replace him. Hopefully someone more toward our way of thinking. But these are ultimately pipe dreams because the Republican Party is just the Republican wing of the big government, warfare, welfare, and intelligence state, emergency state, security state party. They're both of the same mindset right there. In fact, these two, Biden and McConnell, have been buddies for 35 years. That's how long the two of them have been in government, which is most of their adult lives. I might actually be wrong. The number might actually be higher. Biden was in the Senate for 36 years, then vice president for 8. Wow, do the math. Then president for now approaching his 4th year.
Well, he's been
they're of the same big government mindset, Gerald.
Yeah, Biden's been sucking off the public tit for about 60 years.
Just about right. Yes.
And again, one clown after another, and that's the other thing, these this group that overthrew Charlie McCarthy there, they want to have term limits. That was one of the agreements that they made when they brought him in.
Correct.
And people don't remember when back in January, he had a real fight to become the leader over there.
It took 16. It took 16 ballots over 3 days, right?
Yep. So this might be a big change. Judge, what's going on in Ukraine that the people that you know about that the people haven't heard about?
That Ukrainian soldiers have been told to carry cash because when they're injured, they have to bribe medics to take them to a hospital. And then they have to bribe hospital personnel to treat them. Otherwise, they just get at the end of the line and they'll be dead. So corruption is so rampant, so accepted and so expected that you can't have your life saved as a soldier in the military without bribing military and civilian personnel. Scott Ritter will talk about that on my podcast at 3:30 Eastern today. That's how bad things have gotten. The other thing Scott's going to talk about is it is now common conversation amongst diplomats and military personnel in Europe that Ukraine has lost. They're just waiting for Biden to recognize this, and he won't recognize it if he's going to run for re-election. He can't because it'll be a catastrophic failure, worse than our evacuation from Afghanistan was.
Well, as I say, when all else fails, they take you to war. So he'll probably try to ramp it up.
He will try and ramp it up. He got his buddy Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, to drop a hint about British troops on the ground. And then Prime Minister Sunak said, well, no, we don't mean, this is such a British phrase, Gerald. I don't think we speak this way. I didn't mean it in the here and now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what? You meant it for tomorrow? I mean, that's what he said. And then the British press, backed off. This is ridiculous what we lived through.
The other thing, one of the reasons they threw out McCarthy was that he made a deal with Biden where they passed that spending bill. They were going to, they didn't want to send $24 billion more of our money to Ukraine. And that was part of the bill.
The deal was he would take it out of the bill and then put it in another bill after the government had been reconstituted, reauthorized at Mrs. Pelosi level spending. Now, this character from New York that pulled the fire alarm, obviously, I don't approve of that at all. That could cause injury and death. However, McCarthy's people rewrote the statute at night. It was 1,000 pages long. They gave the Democrats 15 minutes to read it. The guy pulled the alarm so that the Congress would have more time to read the damn thing before they could vote on it. But that's the way the government works today. You do this better than anybody else. Do as we tell you. They do that to themselves. McCarthy's saying, just vote the way I tell you.
Yeah.
And it finally caught up with him.
Well, that was part of the agreement, too, when they brought him in January, that Congress would have at least, I think it was like 76 hours to read a bill.
Right.
that was another part of the agreement that he was supposed to abide by.
Right, right. Remember Mrs. Pelosi's famous comment on Obamacare, we have to pass it so we can read it. Now that was 2,700 pages. The Bush administration did the same thing on the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is 115 pages. I've read it twice. I might be one of the only people on the planet who's read it twice. It takes about 12 hours to read, even though it's only 115 pages, because it amends other statutes. So you have to have all the other statutes in front of you and poke in the amendments in order to make sense out of it. Ron Paul told me that Congress was given 15 minutes in which to read it.
All right, so we'll stay on that one with the Obamacare. The latest data came out that since Obamacare, the life expectancy in the United States has declined by about 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
And going back to what you said about corruption in Ukraine, if anybody that thinks that this is a lot of BS, a poll, it was in our Trends Journal, not this week, but last week, a poll from Ukraine shows that corruption is the concern of 89% of the population.
Wow. And the other 11% is probably benefiting from the corruption.
Yeah, that's about it.
That would be the elites, and the most elite of the elites is comedian turned president.
Yes, so
he's really there he is. He is really in a corner, because if he does anything to pull back the military, he'll probably be assassinated by the Nazis on the hard right wing of his governments. And if he keeps the military fighting the way they are, there'll be nothing left of them. I mean, the end is so close to near.
Again, when you talk, you just mentioning again, to show the stupidity and arrogance. What's that guy's name? Bowman, Blowman. What's his name? That pulled the alarm.
Oh, Bowman.
Yeah, Blowman. Yeah, saying that he didn't know it. It was. What are you kidding me or what? It
was obviously.
I mean, really, if he said that to me, who the hell are you talking to?
Right. He was on tape, pulling the alarm. Everybody saw saw the video.
Oh, I thought a fire alarm is going to open the door. What are you, 3 years old? I mean, who are you kidding over here? And he gets away with it.
He will get away with it.
He should go to jail.
He will get away. Well, if you or I pulled a false alarm, we would be candidates for jail. There's no question about it. He's just lucky that nobody was hurt. And a fire alarm causes people to panic and rush out of the building, and that usually produces injury. It didn't this time.
Well, again, it's the whole system. The bigs don't get punished for anything. Look at the J.P. Morgan Chase, where they convicted of 5 felonies. 5. Nobody goes to jail. If you or I did it, or any of the, you're driving, how many drinks did you have? Stand on your head, repeat the alphabet backwards. You're 0.1% over the limit. You're going to jail. But they get away with murder. That's the new America. Right. Judge, thanks for being here. Thank you for all that you do. And by the way, on October 9th, RFK Jr. is announcing he's running as an independent. We're going to see what party that he'll be running on. And as you well know, I've been saying now since last November that the best ticket would be RFK Jr. for president, Judge Andrew Napolitano for vice president on the Libertarian ticket. So let's see what happens.
Thank you, Gerald. God love you.